Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Pilot of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer 40k Combat Patrol magazine. Now, as per usual with any of these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course drop me a comment down below. I love hearing about from you guys, it goes a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, obviously we're on issue 3 of Combat Patrol magazine. So, very early days. It's the first issue where it's $9.99, which is always a bit of a downside. However, you do get some really cool stuff with it. So you get 5 of the Infernus Space Marines. Now, these guys are pretty cool. If you're going to go for a big Space Marine force, get yourself as many copies of this issue as you can, because for 10 quid, 5 Infernus Marines is pretty damn cool. If I remember rightly, 10 of them is about 30 odd quid or something stupid like that. I can't quite remember the pricing, but 5 of them for a tenner is an absolute bargain. So yeah, get yourself multiples if you want to have a big Space Marine force. This will come in very handy. So really good stuff. However, it's not just minis we're getting with this issue, we get some card bits as well. So we'll start with this back one, which is kind of like a little terrain cards. Instead of actually having physical terrain in this kind of magazine's run like we had in previous magazines, we get these terrain cards, which are all for infestation sites, and I'm guessing we'll probably get other slight ones later on. So you can put these on your battlefield, and when your soldiers kind of interact with it, they have different roles and different abilities and stuff like that, and can actually do a little bit of damage to you, and you can destroy them and such like as well. So pretty damn cool. The other cards you get though are also equally cool. Now, you will recognise that these have certain symbols on the back. So they have the Ultramarine logo, they also have the Tyrannid symbol. Now, the reason for this is they are data cards. So this is actually very handy. This is as opposed to data sheets. Data sheets are good, but you need to carry them around. If you've got data cards and you're carrying one combat patrol and you're carrying it in a smallish box, you're not going to want to carry a big massive book around with you just to have 6 data cards or anything like that, or something like that. So having this is a frigging bargain and worth its weight in gold in a way in itself. So obviously we get the Wing Tyrannid Prime, we get the Von Ryan's Leapers, we have the Captain in Terminator armor and the Infernus squad. But then we also have the data cards for the Barb Gaunts, the Termagants, the Terminator squad, and the Librarian in Terminator armor. This gives us all the cards, if I remember rightly, up to what the actual Combat Patrol boxes are. So very handy. It's easier than having the good old app, because you're not having to scroll through things, because you have the cards in front of you. You can literally lay them on the table next to where you're kind of keeping your dice and such like when you're playing, and utilize it that way. Makes life so much easier. But yeah, very good stuff. So pretty damn cool. Very handy to have as well. So absolute genius idea. They should have done it with the previous magazines as well, in all honesty. Going into this week's issue though, obviously we have a how to build section. So it seems to be starting off with the build guides a lot more regularly, which is a pretty decent idea. Now, we have 5 Space Marines. We have the Expert Bladesman, that is our Sergeant. We have the Pyroblasters, which is obviously our flamethrowers, which if you want to, a little bit of taste of how devastating they can be, if you've got the ability to play Warhammer Space Marine 2, do it, because you can utilize one of them as well. It's really cool, really fun weapon to utilize in that game. Anyway, these are push fit models. Now, there is always a bit of an argument against push fit models. Push fit models are handy to have, however, they are also frustratingly annoying at times as well. The reason for that is they can build like crap, in all honesty. So I'll explain a little tiny bit further. They have a habit of not sitting together properly. So if you are push fitting your models, so I'll use this Tyrannid if it focuses in properly and you can see it, hopefully you can. There is a slight gap along the carapace on his back. This is because I only push fitted it. I didn't glue any of it down. That bugs me. And also on the chest plates and stuff like that, that's really frustrating in my opinion. And that's because it's a push fit model, so it doesn't super fit together very well. They're designed to be very good and very handy to just build and put together and speed fit your process up. But because of that way that they just push in together, can be really, really frustrating and isn't the best. So it's a bit rough and they can look a bit crap, and you can end up with these gaps down the joins, which is really annoying. If you want to avoid the gaps down the joins, cut the peg off and glue it together, or just put using the peg, glue it together anyway. Sometimes what you'll find is that the reason it's not sticking together or sitting together very flush is because there's actually trapped air where the peg's going in. So you can kind of cut grooves into the peg or slice off it or anything like that, but just be very, very careful with sharp knives, and it allows any air to not get trapped in there. You can do things like that if you want to. People do all sorts of different ways of doing it, and sometimes it works very, very well. But you can do things better to make it fit better. And obviously, if you do still have a little gap, even if you glued it, glue along the gap and then file it over. So whether you're using things like sound loops or anything like that, or mini files or anything like that, you can get it back smooth over again. So you can use that glue, any other plastic glue, as a bit of a filler, and it will work very, very well. Or you can use green stuff if you're handy with green stuff, or modelling clay, putty, or anything like that. Up to you though. But yeah, glue is your best friend really with minis. Anyway, 5 Space Marines, very, very easy to build, very straightforward. Yeah, generally, personally, I would not fully build them straight away unless you're painting them straight away, or if you want to paint them the way you want to paint them. My way of painting them is I hate having to try and get into detail underneath arms and such like, so I will paint the body, its base coat, and then I will be attaching arms, because it makes life a lot easier and I can get into all the details. So I'll paint it all up first, then attach the arms separately, already painted at the same time. So it's my way of doing it, but it fits my painting style. So yeah, one way of doing it anyway. Anywho, moving on. We carry on with getting more information about the 41st millennium. So there are 1 million worlds, and the Imperium believes that the galaxy belongs to it by right. On 1 million worlds, plus countless space stations, lunar colonies, and listening posts, Imperial citizens toil in the name of God Emperor. These words reflect the brutality of the Imperial rule and are cruel places designed to feed an endless war effort. The Imperium is vast and ever expanding, even as hundreds of worlds fall to war, invasion, and natural disaster. Hundreds more are conquered, reconquered, and colonized. Every Imperial world is pulled into the galaxy spanning Imperial war machine and specialized to be as brutally efficient as possible. Some are turned into vast farms, others are turned into towering hive cities that house colossal populations in cramped squalor. There are even worlds upon worlds that do nothing but forge weapons. So, giving you a little bit of context about the 41st millennium, if you are new to Warhammer 40k, obviously 40k is a big, massive, space is generally endless, or seen to be endless, and considered to be endless. And the 41st millennium, the current that is kind of going. Many different worlds are utilised in many different ways. So there are hive cities, which is where you get your games like Necromunda from and everything like that, where there are gangs. Everybody's kind of, it's a bit of a dog environment on them, and yeah, away they go. Then there are your Forge worlds, which are generally housed mainly by the Adeptus Mechanicus and such like, and they design weapons, they build weapons for the war effort, for the Imperial forces. There are other worlds where they are being conquered and have been taken over, they've been destroyed and such like, and so on and so on and so on. It's kind of an endless maze of lore behind everything. So you get a bit more information. So hive worlds. So hive worlds house countless trillions of imperial subjects within the spires of a hive city. Hellish, sky-piercing towers that rise balefully from the mists of polluted wastelands. So, not the healthiest places. There are your forge worlds, which are planet-sized factories overseen by holy orders of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Their forges produce for tanks, guns, and colossal battle titans. There are the agri worlds, which are the ecology of many imperial worlds, and wrecked by war and industry. They rely on agri worlds for food. So agri worlds produce all your foods, and they're basically farms essentially. And and then there are shrine worlds. So shrine worlds are covered in temples, reliquaries, and tombs for the Imperium's honoured dead. Pilgrims crowd in their minions to bulk haulers to visit and pay their tithes on worlds such as these, because they would. Then we move on, we get more information about the Space Marines. So the Space Marines at war, so obviously you get a bit more kind of an idea of what you get. So a lot of this stuff we had with Imperium magazine, which was really, really cool. And the Space Marines combat doctrine is focused on using a small elite force of troops to shatter a larger force in single brutal strike. The tactics used to accomplish this strategy are varied. Space Marines are above all else flexible fighters capable of adapting to any enemy and any situation they should face. So, I will mention it again. Space Marine 2. If you like the idea of Space Marines, which I'm not a big Space Marine fan, however, Space Marine 2 is a fantastic game. Well worth playing if you can afford it, if you've got an Xbox Series X, PS5, or a very, very good gaming PC. And you will get a little bit of taste of that. Generally, you work in a squad of 3 Space Marines and you fight countless waves of Tyranids and more, which is, I'm not going to spoil too much about it, but yeah, really, really good stuff, and they're pretty damn cool. You do have many different companies of Space Marines. So there is the Vanguard, which call them more like your scouting troops and such like that for your Space Marines. There are the armoured support, so your tanks, your kind of vehicles, your dreadnoughts and such like, which are pretty damn cool. And then there are the companies, so companies of warriors, whether they're the Terminators, whether they are your Infernus Marines, your regular primary Space Marines and such like. There are many different companies that form your troops and such like that. And lastly, the first company itself, which is the most skilled warriors. And then there are the 10th company as well, which are scouts and such like, which they must serve in the 10th company before they can actually kind of go up the ranks and go into different companies and such like that, as they prove themselves, which is pretty damn cool, and there's some good ideas behind it as well. Then we actually get some fiction. So we have Deep Strike. So our first bit of fiction, I think, if you remember rightly, obviously going all about Space Marines. I reckon we're going to get different stories going over time, so we'll get a little bit more here and there that will give us some pretty cool stories, whether it's regarding the Eldari, the Votan, the good old word bearers, and such like, all the other kind of factions that we're getting with this magazine. I reckon we're going to have a bit of stories from each of them as well, which will be pretty cool. Moving on though, we do get a data sheet for our Infernus squad. So if you want to name them, you can name them. So you can name the unit. Obviously you give them a bit of a tick if you've built them, painted them and played with them as well, and everything like that, to kind of give yourself a guide of how you utilise them. And you get the data sheet. We've got the data card, so you don't necessarily need the data sheet anymore, which the data card, as I say, far simpler and far easier to use than carrying around a load of data sheets for units you may not be using. Then we get more information about our collection. So this is utilising the kind of a D6 dot rolling technique for giving you your unit names and epithets as well. So if you roll a you can roll a d6 twice, or you can roll 2d6 and you can get your numbers. So whether it's 1 to 6 there and 1 to 6 there, and you can cross-reference it. So if you get a 2 and a 4, you'd have Tiberius. Or if you had a 5 and a 2, you'd get Aetius and stuff like that. So very Roman sounding names and everything like that. The same with your epithets as well. So you can give them, say, like Purifying Flame, Golden Sabres, or you can just name them utilizing that guide itself, or call them Dave if you really want to call them Dave. Your choice. It's your minis. Then we get our play section for the week. So cleanse, purge, kill. So moving and shooting and inflicting wounds. You get a bit more information about how to utilize it and shooting attacks, the weapon special rules, and determining to wound values. So all about your dice rolls and everything. Then we get on to our actual mission itself. So you are using your Infernus Marine deployment zone, and just over here, and then you have the infestation sites as well. So it is all about going through and kind of destroying everything and kind of burning things out, which is far fun as well. So really, really good stuff. The Tyranids will get a victory if the good old Space Marines don't actually make it through all the terrain and such like that. So, which is an interesting way of playing it, a different way of playing it without actually using your Von Ryan's Leapers or anything like that. And obviously you get more of the good old wound markers and such like that as well. So, because you're going to need quite a few of them for playing 40k. Pretty decent stuff in all honesty. So, happy days. Moving on though. Next week is a paint issue. Our first paint issue. So we get Macragge Blue, we get Baraknar Burgundy, and we get Wraithbone. We also get a starter brush. The starter brush, as I said last week, is pretty pants. By all means, get yourself some decent brushes. You can get them from different places. You can get the Vallejo brushes, which I've been using quite regularly now. So these are pretty cool and very decent brushes and quite affordable as well. You can go for your usual good old GW brushes if you want to. You can go Green Stuff World. You can get your cheap ones from Poundland. Entirely up to you. But that basic brush, that starter brush, isn't the greatest. It's, pants. So it could be better. Just could be so much better. Then though, issue 5, we get our exclusive mini. So this mini is special. So you can only get this edition of this Space Marine Infernus Sergeant in this magazine. So issue 5 is the collector's piece essentially, because you'll only ever get that mini with this magazine or for stupid amounts on eBay. So pretty good. Very, very happy to have it. And then obviously we'll move on, we'll get more Tyranids and such like, and yeah, pretty cool stuff. The way it works is basically for every 10 issues we should have a full Combat Patrol box and some paints in between. So yeah, that's how it'll work out eventually anyway. So 10 issues should give you everything for a particular Combat Patrol, whether it's your Space Marines, Tyranids, Eldari, Leagues of Votan and such like. We will get them over time, and there will be other issues. So some issues will be here, neither here nor there. Some of them will be really good. Some of them will be splitting certain minis across for 2 issues, and so on. So very, very straightforward, very, very interesting. And yeah, it's going to be 90 issues, which is a lot, but it'll be good fun, I reckon. So I'm quite happy with this magazine. Let me know how you guys are with it down below. If, as well, as I said, there is new content coming. If you've already seen it, I've been doing some shorts where I've been opening packs of good old Warhammer Age of Sigmar champions. I'm trying to hunt down a foil Nagash, hopefully. So we'll see if that ever happens. I will be releasing those over time. You don't have to watch them if you don't want to. There will be a discussion about TCGs at some point on this channel though, so keep an eye out. But anyway, we're going to go through stuff, and some other bits and pieces are going to come to the channel over time. So, it's adapting time. Anyway, I have kept you more than long enough. This has actually gone on longer than I thought it would have. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you sometime soon. Bye bye now.